Hello, how are you all? How's everybody doing? Nice to be back with you. Hope everybody is surviving the cold and staying nice and warm. I have just been for a run on my treadmill, so I've got my own internal central heating going on here. Well, today we are going to do a deep dive into a really interesting ingredient that comes from the crocus flower. So yeah, just as we see little crocuses outside, we can use the crocus extract, saffron actually to be precise, for anxiety and mood and depression. There's been some really interesting research on that, clinically evidence-based information, and we're going to be joined by one of my favourite guests, actually Kevin Levers of the Naked Pharmacy, who's got a fascinating background, having worked for Big Pharma and then working with naturopathic brands and now setting up the Naked Pharmacy, which I'm really thrilled that we have a good, very generous Liz Loves discount on. So everything that we talk about there, you will be able to get 20% off if you're interested. But I think it's going to be so interesting talking about mood, emotion, anxiety, spectrum disorders. You know, we're looking at ADD, ADHD, sleep, so many of those things that affect so many of us at the moment. So I'm just going to add Lainey, first of all, as a moderator here on Instagram for Earle Wellbeing, because that's always useful to have somebody else on the chat, because I can't always keep an eye on absolutely everything. And then we will also see if we can get Kevin in the house here. Let me go. Yeah, there we go. Hopefully that will all connect as well. So sit back, enjoy. It's going to be a really good chat. If you've got questions, do pop them in the chat as we go. I know the Naked Pharmacy have got people on hand as well. Hello, Kevin.
Hi, Liz. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really well, thank you. Really well. I've just literally come out of the shower. I had a quick run and just kind of boosted myself because I thought I'm going to need all my brain cells for this chat because I know it's going to be so fascinating. I did say that right, didn't I, in the intro? You were working as a pharmacist, qualified pharmacist in Big Pharma. Then you went
Yeah,
off to work with Walida, is that right, in Switzerland?
that's right. Yeah, so I was with Boots Pharmaceuticals at first, research
Ah,
chemistry.
I know them
So
well.
that's my first love of science is in chemistry, and then I went to after graduating, I went to Upjohn, more in manufacturing, a lot of work on painkillers. So it's a big topic at the moment, morphine, injectables, and what have you. And then I came back from Australia. I was working overseas, and I thought I'll try Walida out because it sounds interesting. I'll be there a couple of years,
Completely
and
the
then
opposite, you know, like a
completely the opposite.
naturopathic brand. Yeah, love it.
Yeah, the other side of my personality. And I thought I'd be there for 2 years before moving back to Big Pharma, but it just grabbed me, and I was there 11 years as their chief pharmacist. So learned a huge amount from them. Very grateful to Walida.
Gosh, fantastic. Well, that's a brand that I've known and used for years. And then you set up the Naked Pharmacy. And I think, am I right in saying that saffron, so we're talking specifically about saffron and crocus, that was the first sort of founding product of yours, is that right?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it's my first love with the brand. And we sort of wrapped the Naked Pharmacy around it really to start off with. And it came out of my own journey because we were exhausted with our son. He was not sleeping very well, and that carried on for a number of years, and we couldn't seem to try and fix it. So he was overactive, shall we say,
Yeah,
and we were
got one of
exhausted.
those.
So we wanted to fix him, and I wanted to fix ourselves as well. So at the same time, what we're talking about today is actually three products. When it started, it was two products, one for children, one for adults, and then since the two adult versions have split off into two different versions. We talk about health is a story, not a symptom, and I very much see that there are nuances in terms of people's condition. And we've got saffron energy, which is about sort of if you're waking up in the morning but feeling very just very tired, exhausted, and perhaps a little bit low and nervous at the same time. So you can get those combination of symptoms. Then that's what the saffron energy is for. If you're waking up hyper, if you're waking up and you're feeling edgy and nervous and anxious throughout the day, and perhaps you're not sleeping, that's where the calm comes in. Again, slightly changed. And then obviously we have the saffron for children at an adjusted dose from 6 to 14. But generally, children tend to move on to the adult dose when they're getting a little bit bigger, say 10, 12, so they can jump.
Okay, that's interesting because I have a 12-year-old, about to turn 13, who has been taking your saffron now ever since we first started talking about it. One of the reasons why I love your brand so much. I also have an adult member of my family who's taking the adult version of saffron, who probably actually might move on to the calm, I think. It's quite edgy. Yeah. So yeah, that's probably the one for them. But saffron itself, we're talking about that little orangey stigma, is that what it's called? In the centre of the crocus, is that right?
Absolutely. So I've got some here. I don't know whether you can see that in my petri dish here. So it's around about 100 milligrams. So you need a lot of saffron, and those stems are individually pulled out of the flower when it's harvested in the winter. So I really fell in love with the story of this spice and the plant itself, because it ties into my days at Wellbeing in terms of the way we view plants and the way we view herbs. And if you look at the message was from the days of Goethe, dating back to a long time ago, Paracelsus, the original scientist, the original herbalist, is when there's a distortion in the plants, when you don't have that perfect balance between root, stem, leaf and flower, then you tend to get a medicinal plant. So if you look at the crocus, hardly any stem, hardly any leaf. The connection between the flower and the stamen and the root is really tight, really connected.
That's fascinating. I've never heard that before. And it's so powerful. And I know it's so expensive. You know, I remember being on a press trip years ago, going to Morocco, to the souks and the spice markets. Yeah. And I mean, there was a lot of fake saffron around, but, you know, that there was some genuine stuff as well. And, you know, I think it was more expensive than gold, weight for weight. I mean, it is. You should see
our invoices when it comes to manufacturing. It's pretty scary stuff, you know.
And you literally get those stamens, do you? And then you're grinding them up, and that's what's ending up in the capsules.
Yeah, they get sun-dried, and then they get ground, and then they get concentrated using water extraction techniques to squeeze it close together. Because people say, well, why can't I just take this as a normal spice in my cooking? Well, absolutely you can. Yeah. But for it to work medicinally, you've got to concentrate it, and it works like a drug, but without the side effects when you concentrate it. So the dose difference between food and medicine is very significant. So this is where, you know, what I've learned over my 35 years has come into play here, is finding the right source, particularly with those three actives. So what tends to happen is you get an extract that's just got one component. So saffronal is a common one. So there are two other carotenoid type compounds in there, crocin, picocrocin, alongside the saffronal. And I always say orchestra effect, that sort of rainbow effect from the multiple actives works like an orchestra in the body. So it's much more holistic, it's much more rounded, it's much more effective. And so the sourcing and how it's processed, how it's manufactured, you know, chemical free, is really fundamental. And so I was talking about that connection between the flower and the root. And, you know, the root is the nervous system. So the flower is the metabolic system, the digestive metabolic system. And so if you have a distortion in your nervous system that requires a bit of heat, requires a bit of repair, because your metabolic system is all about repair, then actually this is the perfect plant. This is a perfect spice for that job. And there's been some research on macular degeneration, where you get degeneration of the retinal cells in old age. And saffron repairs those degraded cells, nerve cells. So it shows you how it repairs nerves, and it's a very gentle spice. So it works very gently without any. You don't feel a sort of chemical kosh coming in with this. And soon with our own family, you know, we were sleeping better. We were a lot more relaxed. We were less reactive, because that's what I tend to find is when you get tired, you get a bit more reactive.
Yeah, quite edgy, quite fractious.
Yeah, I think
You
so.
know,
And
that's
also,
what I found. And there's a lot of comments, which I'm going to mention here because I know when this is played on catch up, it doesn't capture the comments. So we can see all the questions live, but that's the benefit of live. But I know a significant number of people watch it on catch up. A lot of comments here coming in on ADD, ADHD, spectrum disorders. I'm not going to ask you to make any medicinal claims because I know that you're not going to do that as an ethical pharmacist. But do you find that you get people using it? I mean, and I can speak to my own experience here, that it definitely has an effect on spectrum issues, a helpful
um,
effect.
I think what it does is it brings back focus, and it brings back a sense of calmness so that they can actually, it allows them to focus, and they sleep better.
Yeah.
And this we found with our own son, but we've had letters from parents. I mean, they're so joyous to read because the transformation in the child, but also the family, the impact it's having on the family.
Yeah, sure.
Um, and there's
No, I relate to that.
there's less kind of rubbing it up against each other and getting into that kind of, it can escalate quite quickly when you have an overactive mind in a child. I mean, they're brilliant children, and
Yeah,
you need
very
to harness that.
creative. Yep,
Right?
yep, very
Um,
talented
but at the
and
same time,
spirited.
it's like it's
Challenging.
a runaway train. So you've got to kind of bring that under some sort of nice control. And the great thing about saffron is obviously it's working in the gut, which is why we have it in capsule form. And that
Yeah.
vagal nerve connection between the gut and the brain, it's working on that connection. So it's just settling down communications. There's not so much noise coming into these areas at the side of the ears called the inula, which is a chat room in the brain. And if obviously the noise is not coming in from the gut, that's going to settle down, and the rest of the brain is not going to start kind of getting a bit confused and foggy. So that's another area that we found it's very effective. You get that brain fog, don't know where it's come from. We've all had it as the older we get as well. So I find that very useful for this type of problem.
So is this really for all ages? And you've obviously got the children's version as well as the adult version. And I remember talking to you before about saffron and saying that actually to enable us to help sleep better, we need to take 2 capsules in the morning. So we don't take it at bedtime, we take it in the morning. Is that right?
It is, and that's interesting. You take the research, and yes, we start from a research point of view, randomized trials in humans and blinded and placebo controlled. So you've got that kind of mind effect out of the way, and you're looking at statistically significant differences, and that's what the trials of saffron show across a wide range of conditions, including menopausal conditions that are giving rise to edginess and nervousness and tiredness and sleep issues. So that's the great thing about it. But it's really important to actually listen to what the customers are saying to you. And from my own experiences, I take saffron. I adjust my dose in the winter as well. I sometimes go up to 3 capsules and down to 1 in the summer because I find that helps me personally. But we found it in the morning it was far better. And the only way I can explain that is that your cortisol, your stress hormone levels are highest in the morning, and maybe it's working on that kind of mechanism. And it seemed that when we take it in the morning, actually the counterbalance of that was that sleep was better. So it's an area we can't explain at the moment based on science, but it's fascinating that.
But you just know that that's the way it works. So let's just come back to these 2 brand new babies. Yeah. I know saffron as in kind of neat saffron, and I do genuinely buy it. I've got a cupboard full of it, so you're welcome to have a look in my kitchen cupboards and you will find it, both the adult and the children version, although I think now that my boy is turning 13 soon, I think I'm going to switch to the adult only. The energy and the calm, what are the 2 different ingredients that you've added here to each so that people know which one they should be going for?
Yeah, so, and by the way, Dimple, our pharmacist, is on the chat as well. So if you've got any questions, you're going to be answering those at the same time. But it's the core ingredients are the prebiotic, which is the baobab, organic baobab, and the saffron. So that's the core ingredient across all the range. With energy, we've got organic Scottish seaweed. So we call it marine algae. But,
love a bit of Scottish seaweed. It's one of our favourites here.
it's obviously got iodine in it, and it's nurturing the thyroid gland metabolic system. So if that's a little bit sluggish, particularly if you're hypo under thyroid function, then it's great for that. It's putting the iodine back into your system and getting it fired up again. So that sluggishness comes out of thyroid. The balance between the brain and the thyroid, and obviously the liver, is your powerhouse that's driving you forward. So if you've got that lack of drive, then this is the product for that. The great thing about it is it's not going to make you, if you're taking those horrible energy drinks, it's not going to make fire you up and then also make you edgy and nervous at the same time. It's actually going to calm you down. So from a nurturing point of view, the nervous system, you get all the nurturing benefits, but you also get a glug of energy that's quite sustainable and nurturing for your thyroid. With the calm, we have a mushroom sourced B12, so again, that's important to us. That's
really important.
Very calming. It tends to be deficient, particularly in certain diets. And
non-repeaters, be aware, you need your B12.
Yeah, and the important thing for us is it's food sourced again. So I was on BBC Radio interview yesterday, last night actually, talking about the difference between synthetics and naturals, and it's really fundamental to us that we're only using food source, and part of that is evidence, and the evidence varies from ingredient to ingredient, but the evidence shows for us that it's better absorbed, and there's all these other nutrients that you're concentrating from that food source. The second is environmental. So if you're making B12 synthetically or engineering it from biotech, actually there's a lot of solvents and a lot of chemicals that come into that process that then have to go into the environment some way or other. And so for me, it's part evidence, and I connect to the raw ingredients because it's food. And I love the fact that there's wider benefits there, that, trace minerals and all that stuff. And it's alive. There's an energy to it. It's like it's just like a food where it's nurturing us. But to me, because I'm a chemist as well, and my first job was organic chemistry, I know that the solvents that are used to make these synthetic components, and actually, I also know that you can never extract or evaporate out all of these solvents from that process. So you're going to end up with 0.05% of toluene or 0.9% of xylene
in the supplement.
In the supplements, you can't. It's physically impossible to take all those
really
solvents out of the process.
Because food source supplements are more expensive.
Yes.
And, I always say there's a big difference between value and cost.
Yeah.
And, you're getting really good value if your supplement is coming from a food source because it's more bioavailable. But I hadn't thought about the residues of the solvent extraction. That's really interesting as well.
Yeah. And I think it's probably one of those skeletons in the cupboard that a lot of companies need to start addressing, and that including the pharmaceutical industry, because if you think about it, it's a synthetic, and it's going out into the ecology, and so how are those being processed? And I think the transparency on that. So part of our job is to educate people so that they can make an informed choice. Ask the question: is it? Some people say synthetics are natural, but actually it's nature identical. So a synthetic B12 or a synthetic magnesium is nature identical, but it's synthetic. So whereas if it's truly natural, it has to come from a natural source, and it has to not involve chemical solvents in the process. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a little bit of that trace in the final product. And
I mean, what I love about you is your kind of, excuse me, I'm not meaning to be rude here, but your kind of geeky science-ness to it, but, is very, very evidenced and evidence-based. And yet you have this strong heritage of coming from working with naturals. But your team at Naked Pharmacy, and obviously I can see the chat that's going on here, but for those who are watching on Catch Up, you've got a fantastic team of pharmacists that are available, who can be online, either direct message or email, and chat, and or by phone, who are really, they're qualified professionals. So if you've got questions about medical conditions or medication contraindications, anything like that,
Yeah.
you're there, aren't you? Which is
Yeah.
just so brilliant. And
Thank you.
obviously
Yeah.
people get busy. I can see the phone lines are busy, but emailing and whatever is such a great way to connect, to get answers.
Yeah, well, I'm really proud of our service. We don't
Yeah,
take a
pretty
penny
good.
from the NHS. It's a totally self-funded service. We have 4 pharmacists now in the team,
Wow.
and I know that Dimple's going to be really busy
Yeah, they were busy.
after
Sorry
this.
about that.
That's all right. She loves it. She absolutely loves it. I'm really proud that's a service we offer free of charge. And if we don't manage to speak to you straight away, and that's more often than the case these days, we can speak to you directly. You call and you get a pharmacist straight away. We will call you back, and generally the same day, unless we're exceptionally busy. I mean, literally, we're taking hundreds of queries a day now. It is, and if you think about it, it's likely that we'll lose about 600 pharmacies this year in the UK because of yes, yeah. I mean, it's happening now, and Lloyd's are doing it. They're closing all the stores in Sainsbury's and stuff. So where do people go for advice that doesn't cost them?
So busy. Yeah. I mean, that is truly amazing. And, I have to say a big thank you for our Liz Loves discount. It's very generous. It's 20% off everything. And your range is amazing. I'm a massive fan. I'm a big customer
Thank
of
you so
all
much.
sorts of things. We've talked before about Burger Tone for, fatty liver. There's just so much that the Naturaflex, that the amazing turmeric and the anti-inflammatory properties of that. It's, what you're doing is really remarkable. But, I have to say, saffron, I think, does have a special place in my heart, and I think probably does for you as well, not only being your founder product, but just that taking the edge off the anxiety and helping cope with spectrum disorders and sleep and things that so often are just prescribed medication that's just cosh it, whether you're talking antidepressants or sleeping pills or Ritalin derivatives or, Concerta, any of that kind of thing. If we can have a more natural alternative that is actually going to work, it's just such a gift.
And we can catch these things early. I think about, the stats in terms of mental health. Most mental health problems are starting very early, and our children have gone through quite a lot over the last few years, and I think we are seeing an increase in issues with mental health issues with kids. So catch it early, and actually this is where the natural solutions, where we haven't talked about marine magnesium. Actually, magnesium is a great settler for nerves if you're not sleeping. Alongside the gut love probiotic is also that kind of nurture that you need for the gut. Obviously, we talked about the gut brain connection, and so if we can catch these things early, we're here to help you, support you along that journey. And you'll have a few blips on the way, and we can adjust dose. If you want advice about whether you can take this safely alongside, because a lot of people will be taking antidepressants, that's the reality, and they want to know whether they can take these alongside. And we're not going to judge just because we're a natural only pharmacy. We very much support an integrated system, and if we can help you reduce your dose or catch it early so you don't have to go on the product, then that's a help too. I don't want people addicted to products. I really don't.
No, I think it's really good that you can take alongside, these are things that you can go alongside, whether you're taking, HRT as I am, or whether you're taking other forms of medication. They're not going to have contraindications. And I think, the iodine story as well is really interesting. I know through talking to Dr. Seaweed, they found that people who have thyroid issues have been able to come down on their medication, or sometimes come off it, by having the seaweed and the iodine. And that is just so incredibly helpful. And, we're talking doses that are found naturally in foods, so there shouldn't be any reason why you can't take these. I think the iodine is like the amount that you find in a serving of fish. Well, I mean, if your doctor's not going to tell you that you can't eat a portion of fish, so there's no reason why you can't have one of your supplements.
I think that again, part of the BBC interview yesterday was talking about the origins of pharmacy. You know, 100 years, 200 years ago, there were no prescription drugs in pharmacies. Boots, the original Jessie Boot pharmacy in Nottingham, was a herbalist. It was I mean, admittedly, there were probably some products in that pharmacy that perhaps shouldn't be there in terms of modern science.
Yeah, that might not be there now.
No. So I think we have to recognise that. But actually, we're recreating that tradition of pharmacy here in the Naked Pharmacy, and it's all evidence-based. So, you know, we've got clinical trials to support everything we do. So that science is really important. So actually, I think we're recreating something quite special here that
I agree with you.
We're all really proud of.
I have to say, you are amazing. I think your organisation is extraordinary, and I'm not surprised that you've got 4 full-time pharmacists and your phones are ringing off the hook, and I'm sure you're going to get busier and busier. And good luck to you. You know, I really hope that you do, because what you're doing is evidence-based, it is valuable, and there's just so much that is out there in the literature and in the research. And okay, you know, you can't patent it, and you can't make it cheaply from, you know, petrochem and do as sort of big pharma do, but you're doing something that I think is so valuable and so useful, without any side effects.
And we've only just scratched the surface. What excites me is about what's to come.
Very exciting.
I know we're talking in June. We've got an amazing new sugar control product coming out so we're going to be talking about that next time. So insulin resistance. I was
talking about sugar just yesterday here on my live. I was talking about, you know, sugar addiction and, you know, looking at B vitamins and chromium and, you know, ways that we can try and reduce sugar spikes. Oh, I can't wait for that.
Yeah, this one's very special. So, I'm excited to talk to you about that one.
Oh, you're teasing us now.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That is really good. And just a last word, actually, I know we've been talking about saffron and we love it for calming and anxiety and sleep. But the turmeric, the Natraflex, you know, I don't leave home without that in my bag. I mean, I just love it. And I know that you worked on ibuprofen and developing, you know, those anti-inflammatory drugs many, many years ago. And you swear by Natraflex, don't you, as an anti-inflammatory?
I do. Yeah, my first job was working in the department that discovered ibuprofen. The guy that interviewed me, the chemist that interviewed me for my job, was the guy that discovered ibuprofen. So so I come back all the way back 35 years to that kind of that journey, inflammation journey, I call it. Yeah. And if you look at the biochemical pathways of inflammation, it's like a waterfall with several streams flowing down to all these inflammatory mediators. And ibuprofen and aspirin and those other drugs like diclofenac block a certain pathway along to those mediators, but there's still all these other pathways. And the great thing about turmeric and the turmeric that we have, it's multi-component. You've got 7 bioactives there, curcuminoid compounds, not just curcumin. So we're not behaving like a drug here. We're behaving like an orchestra again. And it's able to manipulate those pathways in a much more holistic, balanced way. So it makes sense to me visually. If I look at that waterfall blocked on one side, I've got this sort of distortion, and that's where the side effects come in. So this is where, if you're having a food-based supplement, try and find a holistic one, a broad spectrum one that has multiple components. That makes the perfect music. It's not just the big bass drum. So that's the takeaway.
Kevin, I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours. I actually want to come and sit next to you and just sort of stalk you, because every time we have a conversation, I learn so much. And I'm just so grateful for your time and particularly your generosity. You know, these things, they are pricey and we're all mindful of that. And to get 20% off across the board is really generous, and we're super grateful. So thank you.
Yeah, we love all your followers. They're part of our extended family. So thank you as well.
Well, we've been together a long time now. It must be well over 2 years. So it's nice.
Well, we'll have that face to face maybe next time.
I hope so. I really do hope so. Thank you so much for being with us today, Kevin. It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Oh, what a dream. Yeah, I could, as I say, just carry on chit-chatting, and I'm going to have to go back and replay this one myself, I think, because there's so much there. Anyway, if you were late to class, we were talking mostly about saffron energy, which is the pick-me-up one, and saffron calm. And I am definitely going to be renewing my orders for those. Just a quick few notes before I go. We were talking about gut health there very briefly. If you missed the live with Bimuno, really phenomenal. Bimuno is like your gut health food. It's like your fertilizer. Has these little sachets. I popped mine in my coffee this morning and absolutely love it. And you can save up to 34% on your subscription. We've got a unique code. It's special. It's only for the Liz Wellbeing community. It's Liz Loves. And you get it on Bimuno subscription, and you go to bimuno.com/Liz Loves. And the really clever thing about that is that if you just want to have your one-off purchase, you get 10% off. You take your subscription, you get 34%. But of course, you can cancel your subscription at any time. Shouldn't really say that, but you can. But I know that very, very few people do, because the benefits are massive. And I love this one, Bimuno Immunity, because it's also got your vitamin D3 and your vitamin C and your zinc. Really important this time of year. I've actually just topped Brella up because yet again, she has come down with more colds and coughs and flu bugs, and she's so fed up with it. And I said, listen, I need you to be taking this. And I also need you to be taking your Leapfrog Immune. I've just bought some of that as well, using the Liz Loves code, the lactoferrin. So hopefully, if you're watching this, my lovely Brella, you will soon be on the path to recovery. Yeah, my pink cheeks are due partly to the run that I had just now, which is why I'm still in my workout gear, but also partly to this lovely thing, Studio 10. Those of you that haven't got it, I highly recommend this. Pop a little bit on my hand and you can see, just gives you that lovely pinky glow. There we go. Love that. Studio 10 with the great Grace, female founder. And she has also given us 20% off everything at Studio 10. That's studio10beauty.com. This particular beauty is called Plumping Blush Glow Plexion. I love it for this time of year when skin looks a bit grey and you just want to get a bit of healthy glow going back. Talking about healthy glow, I'm going to be back on Tuesday with another of our favourite people. Yeah, gosh, we're spoiling everybody at the moment. Rupert from Delilah. We're going to be doing a live on-air makeover talking about contouring and how to get blush and contouring right. Isn't that going to be interesting? So please make sure that you join me, please, for Rupert. That's on Tuesday. And just to say, anybody struggling with sleep, if you take out your subscription to Liz Wellbeing magazine, you will get your free gift from Better You, which is called Lights Out, and it's the 5-HTP oral spray. Amazing. HTP, the precursor to serotonin, very good for calming everything down, for anxiety, excellent alongside your saffron, so these would work really well together. This is a free subscription gift, so take out your direct debit to Liz Wellbeing magazine. Otherwise, it's £20 normally, or £19.95. But of course, if you want to buy it on its own, there is a lovely Liz Loves discount on everything at Better You as well. That is it for today. I hope that all the chat has been super helpful, and that if you are feeling anxious or struggling with sleep, or have people in your family, perhaps youngsters, affected with mental health issues and some of those spectrum disorders that we talked about, I can genuinely say, hand on heart, that these are things that have worked for me. They've worked for adult and child members of my family, so I hope they help you too. Sending you lots of love. Thanks for all the hearts. See you next time. Bye-bye.